give you an explanation on how to install Oceanside paper-faced glass tile. This tile is transparent, you can see right through it. So when you got tile like this, you have to add a few steps to the installation so that you get an even color throughout the tile. And when you're using this kind of glass tile, or really any kind of glass tile, you have to use a high polymer content thinset. And this one that I'm using on here is Tec Superflex, and you use a V-notch trowel. The V's are pretty small, they're not really that big. It's like a 3/16 inch V-notch trowel. And what you do is you spread the thinset on the wall, and you get all the ridges so that they're all going in one direction. Once you've got them going all in one direction, what you have to do is you have to knock down the ridges. And the reason you do this is because you want to get 100% coverage on the back of the glass tile. So as you use a flat side of the trowel to knock down the ridges, so you get a flat, even distribution of thinset. And you have to use white thinset, and it's Superflex. In this case, it's Superflex. And you don't, when you flatten out these ridges, you're not taking any thinset off the wall, you're just knocking down the ridges. And this gives you an even bed of thinset on the wall. Then once you've got that done, and you only want to do a section at a time that you can handle, and so that the thinset doesn't dry up and skin over and doesn't adhere to the tile. So once you've done that, you start putting your tile up, and you put your tile up. You don't really have to worry about pressing it in too much. You just want to get it in place where it needs to be and lined up with the sheet next to it. You go along and you keep putting your sheets up, and the reason why you're not really pressing it in too much is because you're going to beat in the tile. And what I use is a little piece of 2x4 and my hammer, and you tap in the tile and beat it into the thinset. And the reason you do this is because you want to get 100% coverage. You want to get the back of the tile completely embedded into the thinset, so that you've got no air pockets, you've got no air bubbles, you can't see any ridges. You want, it has to be 100% coverage. And because if you don't get the 100% coverage, what happens is you get color differentiation between the tiles. It doesn't look even, so it has to be 100% coverage. Now you let it set for about, I don't know, 45 minutes, an hour, half an hour, depending on how quickly it sets, the temperature, etc. But you just want to basically let it firm up a little bit, but you don't want to wait till the next day. You want to do it the same day. And then you wet the paper and let the water soak into the paper, and that will loosen up the adhesive that's holding it on the tile. And once you get it to loosen up a bit, you know, you're gonna have to test it and keep going back and forth to see how it is. And once it's right to peel off, it'll start to peel off. So you just have to be very patient with it and take your time. And you want to pull down on it. You don't want to pull out, you want to pull down, so that you pull the paper back on itself, more or less. Because if you pull out, it tends to pull the tile off. And as you're doing this, because the thinset is still fresh, some of the tiles, you know, a few will probably come off. Don't worry about it. Just put them aside. When you get the paper off and you get all set with peeling the paper off, you just stick them back on. Back bottom with a little bit of thinset and stick them back on. Now, in some places you might get some thinset that oozes through, like right over here, and you want to scrape that out immediately. You don't want to wait till the next day to scrape it out, because it's going to be very difficult to. Once the thinset sets up, it's really hard to get it cleaned off. So you want to get it as clean as possible, scrape out any thinset that might have oozed through. And if you've done it right with the spreading of the thinset, it shouldn't be too many spots that happens, and you're going to get a spot here and there. So you just clean it up, scrape it out, be very careful not to move the tiles, and just clean it up so that there's no thinset coming through the grout lines. So you just keep going, and do one section, put it up, let it set for a little while, spray it down, get the paper all soaked so that it softens the adhesive that's holding it to the tile, and then you slowly peel it off. Now, some of these sections of this video are sped up because otherwise this thing would be 3 hours long. I've tried to keep it in the 10-minute time period. And so that's what you do. You just go along and peel your paper off. And then you move on to the next section. Or if you do one section, put the tile up, and then move on to the next section, put some more tile up, wet the first section that you did so that starts to dry off, and then so it starts to set up, and then you just do a section at a time, and then you can have like 3 different steps going at the same time. So the reason why the paper is on the front of the tile is because these tiles are transparent, and because they're transparent, they can't put a mesh on the back to hold the tiles together, because you would see it through the tile. So they have to put the material that's going to hold the tiles in a grid on the face of the tile, and you peel it off during installation. And so this is basically how you do it. You just put some thinset on the wall, flatten out the ridges, put your tile on, beat it in, and then just move along. And then once you're all done, this is what it should look like. And then you let it set overnight, and now it's time to grout. And this stuff, it calls for sanded grout. So but the problem with sanded grout is when you're trying to put sanded grout on a wall, it just won't stay on the wall. It keeps on falling. So what I usually do is I mix half and half. I put half sanded and half unsanded. I mix it together, and that makes the grout more pasty. And it'll stay on the wall and just makes it easier to grout. So you want to make sure that you really press the grout in between the grout lines and really fill it in. And so you're gonna go along. You're gonna grout an area, and then you're gonna let it set up for a little while. I don't know, 10-15 minutes, depending on the temperature, etc. And then you're gonna get some clean water, and you're just gonna sponge it down and get all the excess grout off the face of the tile, and smooth out all the grout lines, and just generally clean it up. And that is what we're gonna call the first wash, because you want to that's going to leave significant haze on the tile. And one of the secrets to grouting is once you've got the grout how you like it, when you're doing the last part of the cleanup, even on the first washes, pull the sponge always in one direction, and don't go back and forth, because when you go forward, you're putting the grout haze off the tile and onto the sponge, and if you pull it back again, you're doing the reverse. You're putting the haze back onto the grout. So always pull the sponge in one direction when you're doing a final cleanup. Just like here, pull it in one direction. Rinse it off, get the sponge clean again, and then pull it in one direction, flip the grout sponge over again in one direction. And this is actually the second wash. The tile has time to set up a little bit, and the grout is firm. And I'm doing the second wash here, and then afterwards, when that's dry, buff it off with a rag, and this is what your backsplash should look like, all finished and all.